Yo, 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 how's it going? You are listening to the Two Shot Podcast. Producer Griff here. Craig is busy acting again this week, so you're going to have to make do with my slightly less velvety smooth northern tones. Again, this week, to coincide with the finale of the highly acclaimed BBC TV series Line of Duty, we're bringing you some snippets of our Two Shot Podcast chats with some of the brilliant actors who were in it. What you're about to hear are some excerpts from episodes with Tony Pitts, Neil Morrissey, Vicky McClure, Adrian Dunbar, Maya Sondhi, and Danny Mays. Also, Craig's asked me to give a shout out to Carly Paradise and her World Productions, so that we'll be less likely to get bollocked for nicking a bit of her excellent Line of Duty theme tune to make our TSP X LOD podcast theme tune for this week's edition. Well composed, Carly, and sorry for not asking permission. Anyway, here's this week's episode. Enjoy. See you in a bit.
I made it in, like I think I've repeated this pattern through my life. I made my own reality within it. Again, that sounds, but I did make my own. So we came to an agreement at the end. They said if you in the school? Yes, me in the school. If I wasn't disruptive and didn't lead others into inappropriate behaviour, I could bring a radio and sit in the cupboard in Val, the secretary's office. That was the accommodation.
Were you disruptive?
Yeah, but not in. Oh, it's all right. It's okay. It's okay. I think we've got to recognise that somebody came to the room, that I didn't just have a complete.
Someone was just creeping down the stairs where we are.
Yeah. No, I was disruptive, but I don't think I remember. Yeah, I probably was disruptive. I was disruptive, but I think I'd like to think there was some art in it. Do you know what I mean? I like to think that there was some art in it. I wasn't nasty. I remember having some pajama. I don't know. I was disruptive, but I think it was more. I organised bingo
at school.
So I used to, in the lessons, from lesson to lesson, I'd give kids bingo cards and then call the numbers during the lessons. And you could do line or house, and then eventually Stephen Elliott shouted house really loud, and it all came crashing down. And that was more it's not that I wanted to play bingo, I had no interest in bingo, but I do remember liking the idea of there being another culture within that. So where they thought they were teaching us about Pythagoras' theorem, somebody was actually waiting for 27 for a line. I like that. I like that.
Right. That's fantastic.
Right.
Did you have a good set of friends at school?
They turned on me. They sniffed me out. I played myself. I played a version of myself. I played that sort of.
I think we all do that.
We do that, yeah. Then I think as the years went by, it became apparent to them. So started turning up in see-through plastic shoes and enjoying Shakespeare and Laurie Lee, and I think there was a bit of a sniffing out went on, and but that's the beginning of what it seems essentially life is, which is finding your people, right?
Yeah.
Finding your people.
It's an interesting thing you say that, because I was listening to you, bloody hell, this podcast sponsored by Rich Dawley. Rich Dawley comes up again with you and Richard on the Radio 4 thing.
Yeah.
And I think it was you that said, we and I'm not quoting, but something like, we spend our life looking for our people and who are our people. And once we find our people, that's it.
That's it.
I completely agree with that. My wife always says, but Craig, they're not your people, or they're not my people.
Right.
I think it's a beautiful phrase.
Right.
I don't hear it said by many people. So when you said it on the podcast, it really pinged out because I immediately knew what you meant.
And that beautiful thing of so I'm 55 in a couple of weeks. That beautiful thing of, because you kind of think, I found them. They're in, you make that mistake in your 20s and your 30s, you think they're your people, but they're not your people, they're just visitors, but that's alright, they're just there for that part of the ride.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is in the last 10 years, I've found 2 or 3 people that are, out of a clear blue sky that, and the sense of, it's just that thing of, I think it's your starting point with people. So you're talking rather than explaining. Do you know what I mean? So so we're not explaining or having to feel the weight of each other. You just,
and in a way, it can be effortless.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
and I know when I found those people because I feel very relaxed in myself. I don't feel nervous.
That's right. And
I don't feel judged.
Yes,
especially if I worry that somebody is better educated than me.
Right.
What if they're judging me?
Right.
If I'm talking to someone and I don't feel it, I feel, oh great. Well,
right. Sure.
It's your constant.
Sure.
I have that worry within myself. But if I feel relaxed,
well, it's I mean, painfully a simple thing, but be as you wish to seem. I remember reading that as a 12-year-old, and the full weight of that keeps on landing. Be as you wish to seem, and to be able to be you, and because only you know what a terrible person you are, right? You know all the terrible thoughts you've had, all the terrible deeds only we know that. So it seems to me that it's about accepting yourself, It's about accepting who you are, and that's and I think that depends where you start. I think your starting point dictates a lot about your later years. What you see is down for people, what you think's down for you, for your life. See, I didn't grow up in an environment where there were actors and writers. I didn't see actors or writers or musicians or artists. I didn't see them.
If you've got to remember, I was born in 62, so any time between 62 and 72 when I was taken into care we were Irish family, Irish parents, and the Irish...
And where was your Irish heritage from?
My mum's from the north, Armagh, South Armagh, and my dad's from the south, Kilkenny. But it didn't matter. If you were in England and you had an Irish accent in the 70s, then you were bombing the English,
Yeah, of course.
So there was a lot of racism against the Irish at that time, which is still sort of hung over from the 50s and the 60s when the massive, even before that, when there was a massive influx of Irish people coming over here, because of various troubles, etc. So we had that, so we were tarred by that brush a little bit as the family. Not that we understood that as young children, but that certainly, retrospectively, must have had a sway on the social services when it came time for them to decide that it was unsafe for us to live at home any longer.
Why? Do you mind me talking about that?
No, go on ahead, yeah.
Why did they deem it unsafe for you to stay at home? Was it you and your 2 brothers?
Me and there was 3 brothers.
3 brothers.
Yeah, we were very naughty children, that's for sure, but we were feral. I mean, whilst my parents were nice people, they were terrible parents. They were proper go down the pub and leave them indoors parents when we were very young,
What, about 5 or 6, that young girl?
Yeah, even, who knows, could even be before. I remember being about 6 and sitting at the top of the stairs and screaming my head off until a neighbour came round because my parents were out, but how much does that disturb you? I don't know. How much does it, how much of a scar does it leave? I don't know, really. I've always been a fairly sort of calm person in general. But yeah, that's kind of what was going on. I'm not sure whether the council moved us because they didn't pay the rent as well, so we ended up in a kind of a horrible house where they had to go and burn the coal fires. There was no central heating, no bath. Yeah, they had to go and burn the coal fires to dry the walls out before we moved into it because the rent wasn't getting paid on the previous house or something like that. I don't know. It's a scant memory. There was no indoor toilet and there was no bath. And this is, we're talking about 1970s here, you know, it's not the dark ages.
Yeah.
And you used to wake up and the plaster had fallen off the roof onto your bed, you know, and things like that. It was a squalor. But then the social services who placed us there said that the house was unfit for us to live in and therefore unsafe. And so they took the children away. But they were the ones who put us there in the first place.
And what's the age differences between you and your brothers?
About 2 years between all of us. So there would have been Danny, is the youngest. He was, when I went into care, he would have been about 8, going on 9. Then there was me, who was 10, Steve, who was about 11, going on 12. And then there was John, 12, going on 13, who was the eldest. Steve's no longer with us, the one, my elder brother. There was 2 dark-haired and 2 fair-haired. The fair-haired ones were the youngest and the eldest, and then in the middle, me and Steve, who were dark-haired, dark-eyed. But Steve had a massive accident in his 20s and ended up having all kinds of brain damage and was then a real problem person, you know, never really got over this kind of mental issues that he had. Ended up doing a couple of stretches in prison and was found dead in a flat in Wolverhampton 3 weeks after he died. Probably, we think, experimenting with heroin.
Right, and did you lose contact or were you still close at that time?
During this period when he was absolutely mental, the family sort of lost contact with him. And I don't want to sound awful, but he was such trouble. He'd go and burgle your house or, you know, hit your children or attack you. And he'd always be attacking other people. And it wasn't his fault. He really was in a weird state and he wouldn't take his own medication. He was constantly in contact with out-of-body people, God. And, you know, he's sure he could talk to God. And he was always having conversations. He was one of those people walking down the street having conversations with voices, etc. So he was in a proper state, and he wouldn't take his medication. And
did you, as a unit, as a family, try and reach out to help him? Because obviously,
yeah, everyone did. My parents were both psychiatric nurses,
really?
So yeah, so there was plenty of, but there was no. You had to, if you even in that state yourself, particularly at that period. You had to go and seek help yourself. It couldn't be forced upon you. Even when he was in prison, because he went and served a couple of stretches in prison, no one really, it was just the mental bloke in cell 14 or whatever it was, whatever he was. And so when he was out, it was just dangerous to be around. And he was constantly causing trouble. I mean, in terms of really, would break into my mum and dad's house and foul the whole place up. And I mean that in the absolute toiletry sense.
Right.
So there was a kind of a fear of him as well because he was very strong and, you know. So in a sense, when someone it was such a burden on the family and it was awful. It was one of those situations that when he did die, it was like a sense of relief, and not just for us, but for him because he was able to rest. His mind must have been so active with the voices and the demons and the devils and the behaviour, which somewhere inside his head he must have known was inappropriate, wrong, and self-torturing, etc. That it was a relief for him, and it was a relief for everybody when we were able to bury him. You know.
When I was from say like the age of 19, that's when I started working in the office, and I had an office job, and they paid me a wage.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't any different to a normal office wage. It was just a wage. So therefore, I could afford to look after myself and pay for my phone bill and pay for my train fares and pay for, you know, whatever it was I needed, because I wasn't from a wealthy family where they could pay for things, for this and that, for everything, you know what I mean? So I got a job, and that's what kept me in good stead, because then I could just work. And then if an audition came up, I'd take it unpaid or I'd take it as holiday or whatever. And then I'd go to London, do my audition. 9 times out of 10, didn't get the job. Come back, crack on. I'm still working. I'm still earning a living. Yeah. It might not work out. This acting thing just might not work out, but I still need to have a job.
Because there is that constant doubt in your mind.
Yeah, of course. And then odd jobs had come in, and then This Is England, the film, happened when I was 21. Shaved all my hair off, went to the office. Sorry about this, just be temporary. And then, so after that, again, thought, this is it. This is going to be fine. It's all going to go great. Done a film with Shane. It's an amazing film. I'm fiercely proud of it. Didn't do anything. again, just the odd things here and there. Obviously, then I did that bloody film with Madonna.
I think it's so inspiring, certainly for younger people, whether they're training now and they're listening to this, or they want to go to drama school, or maybe they look at you on TV and think, "Oh, it's plain sailing for her," but it isn't.
It's not.
Isn't
It's
like
so
that,
not.
is it?
It's still not.
No.
I don't believe it ever will be, because, you know, even if somebody said to me, right, I'm just going to pass you Julie Walters' career and say that's yours forever. Jesus Christ. Like, the pressure of knowing that you've got amazing work to come up, but you've still got to nail it. You've still got to do the work. You've still got to turn up.
Yeah.
And turn up and perform. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't matter what job it is, whether it is a short film where there's no budget, whether it is a big BBC drama, whether it's a film, whether it's theatre, whatever it is, you've got to turn up.
Yeah.
That's as simple as that. And that isn't easy, because, you know, I wake up in a crabby mood, think, I can't be fucking bothered, you know, or I don't really like this scene, or, you know, we're all human beings. It doesn't matter what job you do.
Of course.
You know, but the one thing you can't do in this industry is pull a sickie.
No.
You just, you know, unless you're dead.
Your legs got to be falling
Your
off.
legs literally
Yeah.
got to be falling off. And so you've got to sustain it. And whilst you've got that job, because you don't know when the next one's coming, if you haven't got anything lined up afterwards, you've got to, you know, go in there and be like, right.
I think one of the many things when I was training that was absolutely smacked into me was be punctual.
Oh, God.
Because once that, if you're not there, I would get there 10 minutes before. If you're not there, I remember running late once for drama school, got there like a minute past, or even seconds past the hour, doors locked. I can see people.
Yeah.
No, just a wave of the hand,
Yeah.
you're out of
Ian
there.
was exactly the
You're
same.
gone for the day.
Ian Smith at the workshop was exactly the same. And
you're the one that's
and
losing
you know,
out.
You know better than anyone. I am so punctual.
Oh my God.
If you say you're meeting me at 9 o'clock, I'm there at 1:45, and annoyed you're not there at 5:45.
I hate to say the word anal, but yeah, probably.
no, it's true.
Yeah, I know.
And that's been drilled into me just because my family are renowned for being on time anyway.
Were you pissed off when I was 2 minutes late for this podcast?
I'm not even going to talk about it
Oh my
on air.
God.
I'm joking. But it's definitely done me a good, you know, it's put me in good stead for this industry, because, you know, the hours are insane.
Yeah.
You do have to make sure, you know, you're on time and you know,
keep
you have to be
safe fit.
professional. You have to be professional.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Keep fit. You know, I'm always in the gym.
Always in the gym. Never seen a burger through your mouth. What,
God, when am I going to go to the gym? When is this day going to appear?
I've seen that.
It's just
Been
not
happening for
gonna
about 7 or 8 years,
No,
as far as I know. I think you've got lovely gym gear, but actually...
got really nice Adidas trainers that just sat there.
they've never seen a treadmill in their
Never
life.
seen a treadmill.
I know you're quite active on social media.
Sure.
And in this day and age
Sure.
of you know, because you probably are an inspiration for young kids. Do you ever get letters through the post or requests through social media asking for funds to train to help them, or?
I can't say I've ever had anyone asking me for money.
Right.
I've had loads of people ask me for advice or interviews for their dissertations and things like that, and I have done, you know,
What you can.
what I can.
Yeah.
You know, it is impossible. Social media is. I love social media for a lot of reasons. In other ways, it can be a dangerous place to be, because you know you're accessible for lots of different things, and you know I think it's dangerous to open the floodgates, because you know I've got work on, I've got stuff to do. It's like I wish I could, but I can't give myself to everybody. But I certainly do what I can, and you know people will just ask for like pearls of wisdom for the industry, and I always go back saying the same thing, which is just stick to who you are, because you are the most interesting thing to them. And I remember going to auditions back in the day, and I'd try and change my accent slightly, you know, make it less knots, and just try and be really overly lovely and polite. Not that I'm not, but you know,
No, I can vouch for that.
Just try and be something I'm not, and talk about things that I didn't really find interesting, which I was just trying. You know, it's a bit like, can you ride a horse? Yes. You know,
Good at trampolining?
Yeah.
You betcha.
Yeah, like just basically be a yes man. And I think it's important to go into any meeting or in any situation to be honest and say, oh no, I'm not really into his films, but I can appreciate why people like them. Like, I'm not really into Star Wars and stuff like that. I'm not really into Harry Potter. So people go, what? You don't want? It's like, no, I'm not, and that's all right. Like, I can't be involved in everything. We can't all be everything to everybody.
Well, the world would be a boring place.
Well, it would. And I just think people, if you go into an audition and you try and be one thing and you get the job and then you get on set and you end up being yourself and they go, hold on, you're not what I met in the room. And then you're fucked.
So there's been a huge amount of variety in what I've done. And then, out of the blue, as you know, recently, this series happened called Line of Duty, which is now about, I think, 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day, God, how long have we known each other? And it is going back to that time. Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah, it is crazy.
Because it started out as such a small little thing for us.
Yeah.
That we all invested in and all knew how incredible it was. But that small bunch of us that were there from day one.
I was looking through I was searching for some work that I've lost. I don't know I don't know how I did it. So I was looking through all my downloads and all my stuff the other day. And I came across this cast list of that particular period. And there were the names of, everybody. Like, Martin's character and Vicky's character and so forth. And then just said Superintendent Ted. So he didn't actually have a name at that point. He didn't know his name was going to be Hastings or anything like that. So it was like, in those early days, as you said, none of us knew really where it was going to go or what was going to happen with it. But, we could tell it was good. And, and there's a great bunch of people like yourself and Neil and Vicky and Morton and Lenny James. How brilliant was Lenny and and Nigel. I mean Nigel Morton. Neil's character. Great characters and all the rest of it. So and that was kind of coming full circle when you think of me and Neil going to that party.
I know
on that Saturday night to get into drama school, and here we were together. Many, 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 many years later.
Many adventures later.
And doing Line of Duty. And of course we didn't know, it was only, as you know very well, probably about halfway through the second series that it really caught fire. And even episode 1 of the second series didn't get good numbers. And then suddenly halfway through, the numbers started going up. And it was touch and go whether we were going to get a second series in the first place. So thank God the BBC decided to go with that.
Yeah.
And, it was great that BBC Northern Ireland got behind it, Stephen Wright.
Yeah.
And, that's been kind of one of those, for me, it's been an absolute, game changer, godsend. The sort of thing that you really, you would keep your fingers crossed that you would get, because I'm 60 this year. So it's like kind of, to get it at this stage of your career is such a gift, a part like this.
I bet, because you've had such an interesting career doing loads of different things. And I was thinking about all the years that I've known you, and I remember thinking, Aidy's finishing the acting now, and I remember saying to him, what are you doing? Oh, well, I'm off to go and do the Brendan Behan thing, or I'm doing the Beckett Festival. You're always keeping yourself creative, you're always doing something.
Yeah, I think it's important for actors, like you're doing this podcast now. I think it's very important for actors to stay in their creative head at all times. You've got to keep, being, no matter what you're doing, I know actors who are really good at carpentry, for example, and will go or they're good at painting, but, they'll do something that they can put their creativity into. You can't let your creativity lie around. You can't wait for the phone to ring thinking that somebody's going to... You've got to get either right, you've got to get up and perform, you've got to do... Somehow, if you can, I know that it's difficult, but if you can, you've got to explore other things that you can do. And, it might be putting on a poetry reading somewhere, because those things are wonderful, People love those events. And at the moment, I've put together this incredible show. I think it's incredible, where I've taken T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, and I've broken it into 4 voices. And a friend of mine, Nick Roth, has written this new music. And I found the BFI recently put online the first ever colour footage of London in the 1920s, and it's absolutely extraordinary. Petticoat Lane, the barges on the Thames, all that kind of thing. Very, very evocative, and just at the right time for the poem, when the poem is written. And I put all 3 things together, and it's really an extraordinary evening, And art, after all, when you after a while, you realise that art is simply being able to make the connection between things. That's all it is. Making the connection between colour and emotion, making the connection between, words and emotion, and the visual connections. If you can find 3 things that connect with one another, and they may, it's not necessarily that you have to be original all the time. What's important, that you can see how things slot into one another and complement one another and create a new whole, if you like. 3 things that you thought were whole in themselves. You put the 3 of them together and suddenly, bang, something else happens,
I never really liked being with people the same age as me at school. And at school, you're always with people the same age. As soon as you do drama, it's like...
Well, you wanted to be with people that
I wanted to be with people older. I did. And
I was like that.
Yeah. Because I like to be tested, and I like to learn and watch people. And, you can learn, obviously, and especially now you can learn from younger people all the time. But I think at that age, you want someone to look up to, you want people to follow, because you don't know who you are and you don't know where you're going. Yeah. So you kind of go, oh, what are they doing? That's interesting. I remember getting obsessed with this girl in one of the shows that I did on the side, where she was like 17, and she seemed so old to me, but I must have been about 12, 13. And she could do a no-handed cartwheel. Get your head around that.
Do you know what? Even now at 41, if I see someone do that, that's fucking impressive.
It's amazing. And I remember her, she was called Vicky. She could do a no-handed cartwheel, and I was just like, she's amazing. And then I had all these lovely role models who were older and all from different backgrounds and, different classes, different talents, dancers, singers, actors, drummers, all sorts of things. So I think, and then I got frustrated at senior school because it was so academic, and I just didn't like. I could go with the academia fine because I did like to work. I like to work hard, but I just felt like there's something else now.
Did you not have drama as a GCSE? No. Or
there was no drama
extracurricular?
GCSE. You could do drama, like you could opt for it in one of the things, but it was so rubbish and it was just so half-hearted, and you couldn't really like get your teeth into it. So then I could get my teeth into when we did the show, which was West Side Story. I could really get my teeth into that. And they really went to town on it, and they kind of made it such a big show, and they did loads of performances. And then I just thought I've got to try for drama school, because you know what, everyone kept saying to me at 18 straight from school, they won't have you. Yeah. You should go to university. You should go to Cambridge. You should go to Cambridge and get a degree. And I'm like, okay, right. Yeah, well, I'll apply for Cambridge, but I'll also apply for drama school and see what happens. And, they'll decide, because if they think I'm ready at 18, I'll go, because they'll take me. And if they don't, fair enough, and then I'll do something else. But I'm going to let them decide, because I want to go. And then, so then I went to Lambda. And
what was the support like from your parents?
My parents were incredible. My parents are really liberal anyway, and they're passionate about. They've always been passionate about like nurturing whatever you feel you are, whatever you want, like
and supporting that.
Yeah, even to like, and sexuality wise, I'm straight, but when I was like about 13, 14, I remember I hadn't shown any interest in any boys at school or anything like that. I hadn't brought anyone home and whatever. And they sat me down at the kitchen table and they were like, just so you know, whatever you choose to be in life, whoever you fall in love with, it's absolutely fine. We accept everyone into this house. I'm like, do you think I'm gay just because I haven't got any boys home? Oh my God, have you seen the boys in the boys' school? They're disgusting. And then my first boyfriend ended up being, he was an amazing West Indian cellist and he was gay. So that was the first person that I brought home. So, yeah.
So they fully supported
They totally did,
you
yeah.
in every aspect.
Yeah, they weren't nervous. Obviously, as a parent, you're nervous about, you don't want your child to be rejected. I think that's the biggest thing. You don't want your child to just be rejected and depressed and, you know, you don't want them to struggle financially. You don't want them to have a hard life. But then you also don't want to tread on their dreams kind of thing.
No,
so,
of course.
You know, so they were like, they found it hard, I know, at times when, because it's, since I found writing, I'm totally happy. But I did suffer from depression at times when I was just waiting for acting work and I had to do lots of side jobs and I was getting really frustrated just waiting. And I think they saw that and they felt really powerless. And, you know, I think as a parent, you just, because now I feel it, now I've got a baby and even when he's got a cold and I can't make it better, I feel like really crappy. But I think that was their concern. It was like, we don't want you to be sad, basically. You know, we just want you to enjoy everything you're doing. And so, like, now they're just completely content because I've got so many things on. But they would never, ever, ever have said to me, you can't do that.
The first ever, I was thinking about this, the first ever performance I ever did, I can't believe I'm going to share this with you now. They did a production of 40 Towers.
At what age?
I was at infant school, man. It was like young. Really? Yeah. And I remember remember some form of audition or something like that. And my mate, Glenn Watts, got Basil Fawlty, and that's the role I wanted. And I was devastated. I can remember crying and all that sort of stuff. And so I didn't get the gig. And then Glenn Watts was rather naughty and he lost the part and they gave it to me. But I can remember on the school stage at St John's, Danny Williams was Manuel, all that sort of stuff. But, you know, it's mad how your memory goes all the way back. That was actually the first ever, you know, I can remember being on stage, I can remember people laughing, I can remember the response to it. So yeah, there you go. The first thing I went up for, I didn't get it. There's a pattern here. Welcome to the world of acting, Danny. It ain't going to change.
Well, did you get the buzz then, do you think? Was that where it started? It must have started prior to you.
Well,
you must have had a little something in.
I tell you what it is, I think, and someone, a journalist interviewed me, and, you know, being one of 4 boys, you know, it was a rather loud, boisterous but loving household, sports mad. It was either golf, football or cricket.
Did that come from your dad?
Yeah, my dad used to play for Kelvin and Hatch. He was a fantastic footballer, as were my 2 older brothers. I mean, they're quite dominating presence, really, in the household. Particularly my older brother, Paul, was probably the best footballer out of all of us, you know. And I just followed in their footsteps. I mean, way back when, I mean, I was like most kids, I just wanted to be a footballer. Yeah. I was captain of Loughton Boys. I played sweeper at the back, you know, shouting away and ordering people around. So that's really what I wanted to do. I was sort of really into sport and things like that. But then gradually, I think being, you know, the third in line and being that middle child, you sort of shout to be heard a bit, and maybe the acting thing kicked in or performing kicked in to try to be different. Yeah. Do you understand what I mean? Because I was always jumping around doing impressions. I was either doing Frank Bruno or Prince Charles or, you know, pulling my ears out and all that sort of stuff to me mum and dad's friends. So there was always a sort of, need to be loved. No, just to be recognised.
Yeah.
But whether
Or to
that
be
was
heard.
but this journalist said, well, maybe that's, you know, subconsciously that was happening because you were, you know, one of, you know, a middle child, and so.
And also in a male-dominated house.
Yeah, very. You know, it was very. Like male-dominated. It was very. You know, there was always something happening. And my mum and dad in particular they're very gregarious people. Do you know what I mean? They're very social people. We would always go away on a holiday. They've got a huge network of friends. So like they're really popular, but they are, you know what I mean? We would go away to Cornwall and all these places, and, you know, one of my best friends, Matthew Farr, he's one of 4 boys. So it was like, in Buckerstill, there was the Mays boys, 4. There was my mum's best friend, Rita Farr. She had 4 boys. And there was another family, the Gibsons. So you had the Gibsons, the Mayses and the Farrs. So you can imagine the stuff we all got up to. I won't say anything more about that.
Do you still have a close relationship with your brothers now?
I do. I mean, I've been really lucky, both with my brothers and my mum and dad. They have never wavered in their support in the sort of career path that I've chose. I've been so blessed in that respect. You know, it's sort of a bit left field, isn't it? You suddenly turn around, because it all really started with dancing, really.
When did the dancing come in?
Well, as you know, Craig, I can do a mean Michael Jackson impression.
I know this, but I've got to
build
throw it
up
out
to it.
there to the listeners. We've got to build it up.
Kick on Billie Jean now. That's really where the whole thing started.
Did that come? So that come after 40 Towers? Was this still at infant
Oh yeah,
school?
that 40 Hours was way back when, and then I was playing football and just being a normal boy. And then I'll tell you exactly what it was. I was probably about 11. I was about 11 or 12. I opened up my stocking at Christmas. My mum put in a cassette of Michael Jackson Bad, along with a Michael Jackson video. The Legend Continues. See, it's just ingrained on my brain. I can remember it like it was yesterday.
And that is about the top and bottom of it for this week. All of those episodes are available in their entirety on the ever-expanding Two Shot Podcast back catalogue. So dig in, find something you love, find something you want to listen to, and give it a whirl. And we will see you next week with some more treats from the annals. Have a good week.